Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome in. Let me know that the sound and the picture, everything looks good. I see a lot of Kelly's friends here, and I'm going to introduce her in just a second. My name is Kelly Cahoot, and you may see me on some of the Honeybee videos and live streams. I want to welcome everyone that will join us today for this class. I'm taking the class along with you guys, so that's going to be interesting as Kelly and I chat. We are sure to learn all kinds of fun things. Let's see here. Linda and Pauline, hello. Marie, Jen, hello. Ingrid. Okay, Ingrid said, I can hear you and I can see you. Very cool. Okay, you guys, are you guys ready to get busy along with Kelly Taylor? I am so excited. Hello, Robin and Lori. Hello, hello. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to welcome our friend Kelly in because I know she has lots to chat about. Hi, Kelly. Yay. And then off to the side here, we have added in Kelly's desk view. This is the gorgeous card that Kelly is going to be teaching us all of her little tips and tricks. I know if you're like me, we're probably not going to learn all of Kelly's tricks and tips today, but we're going to try, right, Kelly?
Yeah, I will. I'll walk you through it. No worries.
Oh, I'm excited. I got to meet Kelly at a Create event, and she did some Copic coloring there, and I was enthralled, as I know a lot of you guys were that were visiting and visited the booth when Kelly was working. Learned so many things for her, so I'm super excited for today. So, Kelly, tell us a little bit about yourself, just a tiny bit before we get started, and then we'll jump in.
Okay, so I have been a card maker since about 2010, so about 13 years. Was a scrapbooker before that, always been crafty, like always. I was 15 years old, like cross-stitching in high school. I'm an old lady at heart. It makes me happy. And then about 2 years ago, I was a police, fire, EMS dispatcher for 17 years. And then 2 years ago, after the birth of my youngest baby, we decided that I was going to go ahead and take the leap to do this full time. And so now I work for myself, and this is my job. It's
That's
great.
awesome.
It's really great.
You're the jack of all trades. Everything from coloring to police dispatch. So there you go. You've done it all. Okay, so Kelly, are you ready to go down to your desk?
Totally ready.
You're totally ready. Okay, here we go, friends.
Okay, so this is the card that we are making. It is a little bit of no line coloring, but not really. There's a little trick to that we're going to use today. And you can use this on any images that you have, but the trick is it has to be complementary colors. So let's get in and we will start stamping. Let me grab my Misty here. I gotta scoot this over. I only got so much room,
And while you're setting your things up in your Misty, I'm just going to tell our friends we're going to do a question answer like post on our Facebook page. That way we don't slow down a lot of Kelly's teaching process. And then both Kelly and I and Lisa can kind of go back into that Facebook page and answer any and all of your questions that you have there. Okay.
So we're going to be, let me just bring this back in. We're going to be stamping our flower first. That's going to take the majority of our time. So we are going to do that first. You can choose any of these florals that you like. I liked the little double one, but you could use the single and add the little side piece. Like you can do whichever one makes your heart happy. So I am going to, I'm trying to see, where does this, I can't scoot it. Oh, I think I just moved you. Sorry if I'm making you seasick. Let me just scoot this. I have a magnet that sits on the base of my Archon. Ooh. And are we good? No.
You're good.
Yeah. Okay. Just give me a little bit of room so you can see what I'm doing. So here is the trick. So no line coloring takes a lot of time and it's very challenging. And so in order to make it a little less challenging and take a little less time, we're going to do no line coloring without the no line ink. So instead of stamping, which if you love no line ink, like Honeybee has a great one, but instead of the no line ink, we're going to use distress oxides. Now, the main focal point of this stamp is the red flowers that we're going to be coloring. And so that is why I'm stamping in red. I'm going to ink the whole thing up in red. Now, you may say, Kelly, I have some concerns because I don't want my greenery to be red. But this is the trick of how it works, is because they're complementary colors, meaning they're opposite each other on the color wheel, you can actually use a red to shade a green and a green to shade a red. So we're going to stamp this whole thing down in red, but by the time we're done coloring our greenery, all of it will in fact look green. But this makes it much easier then to do the no line coloring. And I chose distress oxides because they stamp better. Distress inks don't stamp that well. And so it's not going to give you as good of a, like as clean of an impression as an oxide will.
You're blowing my mind, no line coloring with distress oxide, I have to tell you. And you guys in the comments can tell us. This is amazing to me because Lisa and I were even, and go ahead and work, Kel. You can do your thing. But yeah. Lisa and I were like, I was like, I don't know how we're going to do this. There's like no stamping ink. What are we getting? Now the trick is coming out. And so I'm super excited to learn this.
So then the next one that we're going to stamp is going to be the holly.
The holly.
And that is from the pine and berry centerpiece. Mm-hmm. So we're going to stamp the holly. I'm going to stamp it up here in the corner. And this one we're going to do in our green, because again, the berries are going to be red, the leaves are going to be green, but the majority of it is going to be green. That's why we're stamping it in green. And you can, I picked them based on the colors that I was using, but you can do this again with any inks that are complementary. So I'm going to be using crushed olive distress oxide. This is a bit more on the yellowy side, but in order to differentiate my holly from the leaves on the holiday blooms, I wanted there to be a different green. So I'm going to ink this up and then stamp that down. And again, our berries will still look red by the time we're done because they're complementary colors. And that oxide really, I mean, it stamps so well.
It does. Well, and just for everyone in the chat too, Kelly, while you're working, Kelly mentioned using barn door for her red. I don't have that color. So make sure you just pull out whatever reds and greens that you have, because it's going to work fine.
Yeah, you could use festive berries. You could use, what's the other one? Abandoned coral would be fine. Like the green, you do want to make sure whatever. So like our lightest color for our holly is going to be a YG03, which is a very yellow green. That's why I chose this one. But whatever your your highlight color is going to be, you want it to be relatively close to your stamping color.
Okay.
And then the last thing also from the pine and berry centerpiece is the candles. Can I put these down here, or do I need to get a new? I might have to stamp them on a separate piece just because of the dies. Like when we go to die cut them, I'm not gonna risk it. I'm gonna just get another piece of cardstock and stamp it.
Now, how did you learn this trick with the oxides? Is that just from you experimenting, or?
100%, because I love the look of no line coloring. But it is such a struggle for me. Yeah. And then the candles, because they are going to be like colored white, we're going to use hickory smoke.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely, because I really like the no line coloring look, but no line coloring is challenging because you sometimes we'll lose the lines, like how I traditionally color with alcohol markers. I can't do that with no line coloring, or I won't have any lines to know where to shade.
Right.
So rather than completely learning a new way to color, I just uh, found a new way to stamp.
Right. Well, I have never really I've attempted no line coloring, but it's so intimidating to me that it's not something that I'm really drawn to. Just so maybe this will help me kind of learn a new trick and make it easier for me.
I hope so. Oh, Paige was asking about my cardstock. It's Nina Solar White 80 pound. That's what all, I mean, that's pretty much what all my stamping is done on. So then for now, oh, we need to do the bow. That's it. The bow will just be, and the bow is again from the Pine and Berry centerpiece. And that one will also be in, what do we use? Barn Door? In
Yes.
your red ink, whatever your red ink is.
And then those of you that didn't know, you probably already know, but Kelly illustrated both of the stamp sets that we're using today. So that's super exciting too.
I did. And honestly, it's so funny. Like, you know how sometimes you think that you're like projecting things well, like that you have any idea what's going on. I thought for sure the holiday blooms would be more popular than the centerpiece, like the lantern.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was totally wrong.
Yeah, you
I
just never know.
No, yeah, I was totally wrong. So I didn't get good coverage right here on this little part of this bow. So I'm just going to go back in, blessings of the Misty of a stamp positioner, and just restamp it.
Okay, so for those of us that are in the chat that are just popping in, Kelly is teaching us a new technique on kind of it's a new take for me on no line Copic coloring. And what she's doing is she's using distress oxide inks in place of like a traditional no line coloring ink. I know that probably a lot of you have seen. And she's going to show us an easy way to keep those illustrated lines in our artwork so it makes it easier for us to color in the long run. And so that's what we were talking about being so exciting, is because no line coloring to me is a little it's a lot of bit intimidating, and so I'm super excited to learn this technique from Kelly.
Okay, so now here, Kelly and I talked about this before. This is a bunch of my Misty, these are Misties just stacked up, so that I can get it, because you can't in the software that we're using to stream, you can't zoom in. So this will just bring this closer to the camera, so that you guys can see as we're getting started with our coloring. So for this, I am going to start with the blooms here, and I am going to be using an R32, an R35, an R29, and an R59. That's my preferred blend, but you use whatever red family you like. Normally I would hold them up to the camera so you could see them. That's what I do in my videos, but I don't even know. We're already zoomed in. I don't even know if I can. There.
And I'll tell you, R32, R35, R29, and R59. And I am, because I don't have all the Copic markers, so I'm just going to get the closest matches I can, Kelly. Is that going to work for me, do you think?
Yeah, if you tell me what you have, I will be able to tell you if that will work.
Okay, awesome. Okay, can we repeat the colors one more time, Kelly?
Yes. R32, R35, R29, R59. I kind of feel like I'm calling bingo.
Yes, we are. It's Copic bingo.
All right, so we're going to go in with our, and this is scary, I know. Okay, because I was a beginner too at once. We're going to start with our darkest color, which is an R59. There is a reason, I'm not making it up and just making your life more difficult. The reason you start with your darkest color, especially when you're doing no line coloring, is if I just go in here and I take my lightest color and I add it all over, it's going to cover up my lines. So if you go in, and this is true of this technique or of a traditional no line coloring ink, if you go in and lay down your shadows first, it will preserve your lines. So
Okay.
here we have, see how this is indented right here? We're going to add a little bit of shadow here, and we're just going to go right along that line. Here, a little bit of an indent. Now, if you want this piece to be raised up, you'll add the shading to the left side of it. If you want this piece to be raised up, you'll add the shading to the right. I am going to add the shading to the right-hand side so it looks a little ruffly.
And
Same thing.
those of you that are asking about color swatches, we'll add those into the Facebook group at the end, so that way you can pull it back up.
So then here, it's going to be the same thing. See, we've always talked about, if you watch my videos, where two things join together or where one lays on top of the other, that's where you add your shadows. This petal is on top, this petal is tucked under. So this little V right here where they're meeting, we're going to add a little bit of shading there, and then we're going to flick that up to follow the line. Down here, same thing. This petal is on top, this petal is tucked under. So in that little V, in that little crook, we're going to add some shading there along the side and then just flick up to follow that. And we're going to do that with each one of these. So now here we have all these little stamen. They're sitting on top. So I'm going to go and add my shading. Now you do have to be a little bit careful because, you know, you don't want to get your stems. But this one is on top, so we don't want our shading to go all the way out to the edges. We want to save that for our highlight. So then from here, we're just going to follow along the lines, which normally I say the lines drawn by your illustrator, but I'm your illustrator. So the lines drawn by me.
Yes.
And then here again, we have this dip in. So we're just going to add some shading there and add a little bit of shading there. Basically, wherever your little lines are, when you're going in and adding your shadows, you just want to go just a little past it, just extend your line a little past it. But you can see we aren't adding very thick lines. I'm a paper turner, so I'm going to turn my flower to make sure that I get good flicking. Here, see how this one's drawn where it's like this and like this? To me, that says this piece in the middle is inset. So I'm going to add shading on the inside of these lines, which is going to make our flower look a bit concave. And again, this petal is underneath this petal, so I'll add a bit of shading there and a little bit of shading on this side as well. Follow our little lines, extend out slightly past it. This one's on top, so we don't want to take it all the way to the edge. And then again, we'll add just a little bit of shading. This time adding shading on the outside of the lines will raise this piece up. This one's tucked under, so we'll add shading here along this line. It's also tucked under this one, not by too much, so we don't need to add too much shading over there. And then here, again, we'll follow these lines to either raise that piece or concave it. Am I going too fast, Cal?
A hair too fast.
Okay. How are you feeling about your lines? Okay.
I'm doing pretty good.
The thing about this technique is it's very much like watercolor. It's going to look like a mess until you get to the very end. So if you're going through it and you're feeling like this should not be what this looks like, write it out until the end. Like, I promise you, write it out until the end.
Trust the process.
Yes. Almost all art is ugly until it's not. But if you stop at the ugly stage, you'll never be happy with what you make. So then here we have this second flower that's tucked underneath. And again, this one is in the front, this one is behind. See how it creates that shadow? So we're going to have quite a bit of shadow on this floral, especially like this part right down in here where we've got a lot of, it's really tucked in there, a lot of shading on this one. That might be the most shading that we add. Add a little bit here, add a little bit over here. You can go in and outline it, but if you go in and outline it, it's going to look a little bit less natural, but sometimes that is easier. And you're just going to have to like how far you want to push yourself. And then again, we're just following those little lines that are there, going over them or next to them, depending upon how we want this to look. This petal right here is behind, so this will have a little additional shading. This petal here is behind, so it will have a little additional shading as well. And then our little lines, we'll do our little lines here. And then that is it for our darkest color. Let me know when you are at a good spot to move on, Kelly. I'm gonna read comments until then.
Perfect. Let's see here. Oh, they're waiting for a peanut story.
Do I have a peanut story?
Ask questions. Let's see, Kat, you're asking about questions. We're going to put a post up at the end on our Facebook group, and we're going to do like a question answer time over there. That way Kelly can take her time to answer everyone's questions. And we, we don't want to take up too much time for the live here today.
So her question actually asks, where does she ask a question if she doesn't have Facebook? Oh, there will be, Kat, there will be a replay. If you leave them on YouTube, I will look there as well on the replay.
Yes, if you want to put them in the there, if you want to ask the questions, Kelly will scroll through the comments there on YouTube, and she'll answer them there. She'll reply. Okay, Kelly, I think we're ready.
Okay, so now we're moving on to the R29. Mm-hmm. And we're gonna, I like to typically start at the same spot every time. It's just make sure that I don't miss anything. And so now when we go in with our R29, we're going to go over the R59 and extend it out. So everything that we've colored already, we're going to go right over top of it. That's going to help them blend together. And then we're going to extend it out. In this case, because this petal is underneath, I'm also going to add a little additional shading down into that V. And then again, I'm going to go over this R59. Slowly but surely, you will start to see our little petals fill in. And I say it all the time in my videos, but typically your midtones are what you're going to see the most of. And for us in this color combination, our midtone is our RV, or our RV, no red violets here, folks, our R29 and our R35. And I'm just going to turn us as we go.
And you just took that R29 all the way around the stamen, right?
Correct, because I had in order to get all of the R59 we put down, I pretty much had to.
Okay.
So remember, this part we're coloring to look concave. So that's where we're going to have quite a bit of shading in there. On this one, we're coloring it so the middle is raised. So as we're blending out, we're going to be adding shading to the left and the right hand side. If you want this to be a bit more wavy, see how we have this little dip in here? You could add in just a little triangle. Just a little triangle, and it'll make it look really ruffly, which also is true of clothes, not just florals. Like if you're coloring something that has clothes and you want to create a, what do they call those? Why can't I think of the word? A pleat? Is that what they're called?
Yes.
Then you can add just a little triangle and it will give you enough shading that it'll look like it's pleated. It's great for skirts and stuff. So that one is completed. I'm going to move on to this one. Again, covering up those little R59 lines. This one, we got a lot of R59. So I want to make sure we get all of that. We're going to bring this down. And you want to, I haven't talked about it, and I probably should. I haven't talked about it in my videos a long time now that I'm getting ready to say it. I realize it's been a long time. You want to avoid what we call a wall of color.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, see how this is all the same height?
Yep.
It's so hard to blend them. You got to vary them. That's why the flicking is important. If you vary your lengths, it's so much easier to blend them in together. Okay. Let me know when you're ready to move on to the next one, Kel.
Okay.
Connie, how do you find Kelly on social media? Connie, my social media is all Kelly Taylor cards. Oh, look it. The honeybee answered you. I didn't even see it. Yeah, everything. Instagram, YouTube, blog, website is all Kelly Taylor cards.
Okay. How's everybody doing that? Is anybody following along? Or how's the speed for everybody? Let's see here. Let's see here. Following. I'm a little slow too. I'm good.
Yeah, don't feel bad about if you're a little bit slower.
Yeah. I'm a video pauser catcher upper, so don't be afraid to come back to the replay.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the R35.
Okay.
And remember, our midtones are what we're going to see the most of. So in the beginning, when all we had was shadows and a bunch of white area, we're going to have the reverse. We're going to have the majority of it red and a very small area of white that's going to be our highlight.
Okay.
So when we're going in this time, not only are we covering up the R29, we are going to be, so like here, this side of my petal is going to be lighter. It's going to be a highlight.
Okay.
This portion here, because it's a little bit lifted, will also have a little bit of a highlight. But the majority of this petal is going to be filled in. So you can see we've gone and we've done the reverse. Same thing over here. This one's on top. So we're going to have a highlight along this edge. We're going to leave all that white. We're going to blend these into together. This one is lifted. So we're going to leave a white edge there. This one is lifted. So we're going to leave a little bit of white there. Now, here is where it is beneficial to know your markers. Okay. I know that my R32 is going to bleach out my R35. Okay. I know it because I have practiced with them. So even if, because this is such a small area, I'm just going to color that in so I can show you when we go back over it that I can still lighten it and have a highlight.
Okay.
So even if you're struggling in the smaller areas to leave a white highlight, don't worry.
Okay. That's good because I accidentally colored mine in.
Girl, we can fix it. We can fix it. That's what I mean. In my videos, I say that all the time. Everything is fixable. Do not go, you know what I mean? Like that you've spent all this time on this project and you're going to be upset that you think you ruined it and you're going to walk away. Nope. It's all fixable. Come back.
Yes. That's what I need.
So here I'm filling in the majority of this, but I am leaving those white areas for my highlight so that portion will be popped up. This area will be lighter, but again, we don't want to leave the whole thing light So we're going to do just that little triangle of color. So we have a white line kind of on the left and the right-hand side of it. This one is darker over here. This one is, I'm just gonna flick kind of right up the middle, but leave it lighter on either side. That way I will still be able to use my highlight color. And then this whole floral is ready for the lightest color. And you can see it's starting to come together.
Well,
Bonnie,
yours looks beautiful. Mine is still a hot mess express over here.
that's okay. Don't worry about it. Bonnie, you can go over the R59. You totally can. So now we're going to move on to this one here. And again, we're going to leave a highlight on the edges. This one's on top. So I want those highlights and those shadows is what creates separation in your petals, especially for no line coloring. Because if you don't have any highlights or shadows, it's all going to be so one note. It's just going to look mushy. We don't want it to be mushy. And for these smaller ones back here, you're going to have less of a highlight. Like, don't be afraid. Like, if you're like, oh my gosh, I basically filled in that whole petal, you're going to have less of a highlight because you're only seeing a smaller portion and it's not going to be catching as much light anyway. Okay. I can try. This was something that I've seen a lot of colorists do it, where they leave the cap over here. But because I'm a paper turner, I almost always knock it off. But I will try for you.
Yeah, we're gonna put up a swatch too, and we'll put in the description here on YouTube. We can go in and add the Copic marker colors. That way, you guys can go back and refer to that.
Are you ready for R32, Cal?
I think I'm ready.
All right. So now here's kind of where everything comes together and the magic happens.
Okay.
So I told you before, I know that this is going to bleach this out. I'm not going to go in and cover the whole thing. Okay. Because it will bleach out my colors.
Yep.
I'm going to start on my edges this time and I'm going to flick the color in.
Okay.
And you can see how much it lightens everything and really just creates that beautiful highlight.
Now, are you going over, are you only going over your white areas? Are you going over a little bit of everything?
You have to go over a little bit of the R35, which is the last color that we use.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go over it a little bit in order for them to blend.
Okay.
But you don't want to go crazy because, like I said before, it will bleach it out. Yeah. And then your R35 won't blend into your R32. See? Okay. Oh, let me get that back. So here, remember, this is the one that we colored in. I'm going to go in. I'm going to hold it this way so you can see. I am barely touching. You do not want to press. I am barely touching the paper, and I'm just going to work it kind of back and forth, and you'll see that highlight start to appear right there. Because lighter Copic markers bleach out darker Copic markers. And then again, around this edge, which is going to give us really great separation between those petals. I once had a girlfriend, she used to be in the industry, and she was very talented, very, very popular. And she just found that the sharing on social media just was not for her. But she and I are still friends, and we get together at restaurants and craft together, and it's great fun. But she once told me, if I did not see you coloring live, I would never have guessed how light you have to touch the paper.
Oh.
So now this one is all put together. We can see all of our petals, all of our highlight areas, how concave this is, how raised this is. Like it looks very textured and wavy. All right. Okay, how are we feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, I'm like kind of comparing mine against yours, and I notice like you're a lot more bold when you go in with your deepest, darkest color, where I was a little more timid, I think. But overall, I think it's looking not too bad.
Good, I'm glad.
Me too. Mine isn't Prudence. It's fine. Mine is one of those like who you call like Picasso or whatever, like from afar. Mine is beautiful, but don't look at it too close. So it's
Well, let me tell you a secret. Almost all Copic coloring is like that. Like that's the hands down truth. Like if you look at them up close and you can see every stroke,
mm-hmm.
It's like people will look at mine and be like, mine doesn't look like yours. I want mine to look
Right.
like yours. But if you looked at mine up close, like
Let
you're
me
looking
show
at
you
yours.
what I've got so far. So you can see where I've got some walls of color where Kelly was telling us, I should have done that better. And you can see on her desk here in just a minute where she was a lot more bold with that darkest marker where I was a little more timid adding that in. But I mean, it's getting better, and I'm learning right around along with you guys. So, and you know, it's not horrible. It's not horrible. All right, Kel, here we go.
Okay. All right. So now, while we still have our reds out, okay, we're
Mm-hmm.
going to come up here and get these berries.
Okay.
Okay. We're going to do the same thing.
Okay.
We're going to start with the R59. But remember, this one is stamped in green.
Yes.
So when we're adding well, not this. Yes, this one. Okay. So for this one, I'm not going to go all the way out to the edge. It's by itself. I'm just going to make this little C shape down here to give him some dimension. And that's all I'm going to add to him. Okay. For this one, remember, this berry is on top of this berry. So I do have to add shading all the way up. And I'm going to cover that little line, that green line. And this one, because it is tucked behind, will get just a smidge more shading. Now, we don't want to leave this guy out here with no shading. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do that little C shape. These ones do go fast because there's just not a lot of real estate. So now, same thing that we just did. We're going to move on to the R29. Can you even see that? Okay, good. And then we're going to cover our R59. But we're only going to do it on the inside edge. We're not going to do it on the outside. We're going to leave that outside edge open. Same thing over here. You do it on the inside edge. Leave that white space open. For this one, we're going to come in, we're going to cover that R59, and then we're going to do just little flicks of color. This berry will not be as light as these berries because it is behind and it will not catch as much light. Now, R35, which is our mid-tone, we're going to take this all the way around the outside edge. So right over what we colored, right over that green stamping, all the way around the outside edge. And then right over that R29. So by the time you're done adding this, you should have just a little bit of white left. Same thing for this one, all the way around over that R29 and have just a little bit of white. For this little guy who's tucked behind, we're going to do the same thing, but you will probably not have any white left. He's going to be a little bit darker because he's tucked behind. For these two, we will use the R32. And again, just like before, we don't want to completely cover it. We're just going to go in and fill in that white spot and then barely overlap that R35. And that's going to give us a nice little highlight on our berry.
Cute.
Mary Jane, don't feel bad about yourself. Darker shading is the hardest part, is the weakness for everybody, including myself when I first started. Because they're scary.
Yeah.
Girl, because they're scary. Don't feel bad about that. It's okay.
I agree. I was very light-handed on the dark.
But did you notice with being light-handed on the dark that you don't have as much contrast?
Yes. That's
so
why
you don't have as much dimension.
Yeah, I'm looking at yours and like, especially the flower that's tucked in behind and that first petal, like it's gorgeous like that. But yeah, I'm going to have to work on adding my darker shades in for sure.
Okay, so now while we have our reds out again, we're going to go tackle this bow.
Okay.
So now, remember we talked about where two objects meet or one lays on top of the other. When you have a knot in real life, there's going to be a lot of shading that's centered in here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But this top little piece, this little itty bitty top knot, is not going to have any dark in there.
Okay.
Okay. So you're going to color around it and we're going to flick. Mm-hmm. So we're going to start here and we're going to flick up and we're going to follow the shape of that bow. You don't need a ton. You just need enough to give the illusion of some shadow. But you want to flick it so that way we can blend it.
Mm-hmm.
Turn your paper if you need to. Like I said, I literally do this as a job and I still have to turn my paper. There's nothing wrong with that. Whatever's comfortable for you. I like to flick away from myself. I feel like that gives me better control. Some people like to flick towards themselves. You do you. So now we have these two little tails, which again are part of this knot. So we'll have just a little bit of shading here as well. Now you can also add some shading down here if you would like. I would do just this tiniest little triangle, but honestly, if you wanted to skip it, you totally could. It's not really going to affect the full picture. It doesn't really matter. So then we're going to do the R29. Same thing we've been doing, right? We're going to go right over top of this R59 and flick that out. And same thing for this. Now this one, I would go onto the edges and do some flicking upward. Because usually where your rounded areas are, here, that's where your highlight's going to be. Oh, this is the same color, Kelly. Same color. I got to pick a different one. All right. So now we're going to go in with the R35. We're going to flick that up and then down. And you're only going to have just a little bit of white area. This is also going to be the first one that we use on our knot. We're going to get just the bottom kind of portion and leave a sliver of white for our highlight. How you doing, Cal?
I'm doing good. I think I went too light-handed on the darker colors again, but we'll make it work.
All right, so now the R32, we're just going to fill in the white areas that are left. And remember, we're just going to slightly overlap our previous color, which is going to give us a lot of roundness and dimension. And there is our bow. Will the sketch markers blend more smoothly? Versus like the chow? Is that what you're talking about, Martha? Versus what? Are you good on your bow, Kelly?
I'm good on my bow.
Awesome. We're going to move on to the greens.
Okay.
Got to bring our, no, you know what? Let's do the yellows. Let's do the yellows. So that way we can finish out this flower.
Okay.
For that, we are going to need your Y08, the YR24, and the E99. I'll hold them up here. I will hold them where you can see them.
24.
If you don't have these, let me know and I will make some suggestions.
I do not have YR24.
You don't have YR24. Okay. Do you have a YR27?
I have 26 and 21. Let's see. YR23.
You could use a YR23.
Okay.
It's not going to be as dark, but it'll be okay.
Okay. And then what? E99?
E99. You don't have, Jen doesn't have E99. You could use an E37, an E39, you could probably even get away with a 57. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go in and we're going to start again with our darkest color, which is an E99. And for that, we are going to add shading to the base of our stamen. So like in this little half circle shape, just like this little C shape.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are going to add it just little dots. And I do mean little dots to our actual stamen. That's it. That's all we're doing with that for now. Then we're going to do the YR24. And for that, we're going to fill in the whole rest of this shape, overlapping that E99. We're also going to use this to not fill in all of the stamen, just pick like two. Mm-hmm. And then again, we're going to dot right over that E99. Last, the Y08, and this is what adds the brightness. You're going to go over the whole center again because it adds that bit of brightness. And then you're going to completely fill in any of your leftover stamen.
Okay.
We're also going to use this. Are you good on the stamen count? Okay. We're going to use this to do the shading on our candles.
Oh,
so,
okay.
E99. We're going to go in here at the base. Just follow the shape of the flame. And you're going to flick that color up a little bit. Remember, we don't want a wall of color. So try to vary them. Be very light-handed. And you do want to go over that gray line. Then the YR24. Same thing. We're going to go over that 99 and flick upward. And then again, the Y08, we're going to bring that by flicking down. Now you could absolutely, if you want a more traditional flame color, you could do that same technique with reds and oranges and yellows and just follow that same kind of technique with a different recipe or marker set, and it will still work. Okay, so now we got the yellows done. Now we're going to move on to the greens.
Okay.
Let me get my... All right, you good, Kel?
I'm good. Let's see. How much of a difference do the markers make? I don't have any Copics, just a few Prismacolor and Spectrum Noir. That Kelly will have to answer that for you. For Katrina.
So Katrina, I have not used Spectrum Noir in years. When I first tried them, they still had the bullet nibs, and so because the shape of the nib was different, it did not work the same. They have since come out with the brush nibs. So I've tried a lot of different alcohol markers. I've tried sketch markers and I never know how to say it. Olo. Oh, yeah, I think that's how you say it. I've tried Altenew markers. I've tried tonic markers, and pretty much all alcohol markers work the same. How well, I guess they go down. I can't speak to the ones I haven't used. So Prismacolor, I mean, I don't even, do they have alcohol markers, or are you talking about colored pencils? Because that's a whole different animal. The shading technique will still be the same no matter what color medium you use.
Yeah.
But like with colored pencils, you would have to change your order because colored pencils are wax based, and if you lay a lighter color over a darker color, it will cover it because they're opaque. Like if you do like so many layers. So if I was doing this in colored pencil, I would still go in and outline all of my lines so I didn't lose it. But you will end up having to do it twice. I do have some colored pencil videos if that's what your medium is on my channel. Or I have some on the Honeybee channel as well, but that's not typically what I use. Okay, so now onto the green. For these, we're going to be using G05, G17, and G28. What do you got, Cal?
I'm looking through my little stash here.
Okay.
And G28. I may actually have all the greens.
Fantastic.
Let's see here. I do.
Okay. So we're going to go in with our darkest color first. And this is the part, remember, where I told you it only works with complementary colors. So when you are going in, like let's start up here. We're going to go in, we're going to add our shading like we normally would. Okay. We're going to do a little bit of flicking along these lines. This is tucked behind the flower, so it's going to be darker. But you want to make sure you're going over those red lines. Here, this little itty bitty triangle of color, you can just go ahead and completely fill that in with your darkest color. We won't be adding any shading to our tiny little triangle. See, look at, oh, this is terrible. I'm trying to leave it on there, guys. I'm trying to do my best. So here we have our flower on top of our leaves. Again, we're going to add a little bit of shading. We're just going to follow that down because there is not a lot of real estate here. Down the center line. And then we have this V, this little V where they're tucked in. Add shading there. The stem is in front of this leaf. So we're going to get underneath the flower, and then we're going to get behind the stem. So this one, because it is so far behind, it is going to be considerably darker. We're going to add a little bit of shading underneath this, but in order to create some separation between the two, we're not going to go all the way across. We're going to do the darkest shading just right here in the center, and we're going to leave it white on either side. For this one's drawn in a side view. So this little piece is pulled up over the leaf. So that means we will have shading here where the edge is kind of pulled up over it. And again, we're going right over that red line, bringing it down in here, flicking out from this little V, not too high. We want to leave some separation between these two leaves. Otherwise it'll start to get muddy. Over here for this leaf, again, we are behind the floral. So we're going to add some shading, do a little bit of flicking down the center where this meets the stem. I'm going to add a little shading there as well. Flicking up underneath here. Again, just being super light-handed. See, I can already see that. See how I was starting to get a little wall of color. I got to go back in there and make sure I'm varying my strokes. From here, we're going to be flicking upward. Around these little flowers, because they would be hiding the light from our little leaf. Want to make sure we get that center line. And up here through the top. Now, in order to give it more roundness, I am going to bring some of this darkness back down. That will help this part and this part to look a little bit more rounded. And down here. Making sure to go over that red line, flicking this color up, covering that red line in the center. And again, I'm going to come down this way with little flicks to give it a more round appearance. I actually think I'm going to go over here as well and add just a little bit, not too much, but just a smidge. So it looks a little bit more round. Okay. For the stem portion, I don't want to be my darks right up against these leaves, but I do want it to have some dark. So I'm going to bring in just a little bit of dark, covering up that red line from the bottom and just kind of flicking it upward. And I will then, from this area that we added some shading, I'm going to flick down. Can you move the paper so we can see the cauliflower? I apologize. I didn't realize it was down low. There we go. Okay. You ready to move on to the next one?
I just have to do the top of my stem.
You're fine.
Let's see here how we're looking. You are fast, girl.
To be fair, I've been doing it for a long time.
That's true.
Like Dawn Wolfslagel, if you guys are not familiar, I'm sure you've seen her videos on the Honeybee channel. She's a watercolorist. She's amazing. Dawn can whip out a beautiful watercolor in 15 minutes. Like it's wild to me. It takes me like 2 hours, but that watercolor's her medium, man. That's where she that's where she finds her happy place. So everything gets faster with practice. Colored pencils take me, I think the last card I made with colored pencils took me 3 days, and I'm not exaggerating.
Okay, I'm ready. What color are we on to next?
We are on to G17.
Okay.
If you don't have G17, G16's super, super close. Okay, so we're gonna go back to this original one. This one isn't really gonna get a whole lot of light, so I'm just gonna go ahead and fill it in. Again, I'm gonna go right over those red lines, those red stamped lines, and then bring this down here. Again, we don't have a whole lot of real estate, so I'm just going to fill that in. So that leaf will be considerably darker because it's super tucked behind.
Right.
Here for this one, we're going to go over the G28, flicking our color. And this one, we do want to maintain a highlight here. Down here where it's meeting the stem, there would be some shading, but we're not going to take this all the way up because we want to maintain that highlight that will be caused from it folding over on top of itself. Over here, again, we're going to go right over top of that. We're going to flick our color. We're going to flick our color down from underneath there. We're going to have a very small area of white left. This is our highlight. On this left-hand side, we'll have almost no highlight. That will just be a darker green. Over here, we will have more of a highlight. I can see that there are some areas where I didn't completely get my red line. So I'm just going to go back in super light-handed and get those. Again, we're going to have a small area of a highlight down here. Going to flick that, cover up that line in the middle to blend. This one I do have to turn it because I'm just like, I can tell from that line from earlier, like that was not a comfortable position for me to be in. Making sure I get all those little red lines and the center, and I'm going to call that good. Now with the center stem, I'm going to go over again that G28. I want to cover up that G28. I'm going to extend out the shadows right underneath the flower, but not for the whole stem. We're still going to leave some white on either side to make sure that that's going to look forward. Mary, yes, you do need to use a light hand. Okay, so now we're onto the G25. This one it's a bit more yellow than the other ones. So for this one, I do actually like to go back in and just take it right over top of everything so that everything is the same color. This G05, for some reason, does have a considerable amount of more yellow than the other two, and I want everything to match. See how much more yellow that is than these? And then this will also be my highlight color for this portion. Again, we're going to fill in this whole stem and get our little highlight portions. I love the last color. The last color brings everything together and it makes me so happy. Now, once you have everything colored in green, you may see some areas where maybe you didn't get your red outline completely covered.
Yes.
You can always go back in and get them, or not. Honestly, once the time, like the car is completely put together, you probably won't even notice. Okay. And then we're done. We're done with that flower. Yay!
Oh boy.
Ingrid, did I say G25? It's G05.
Yes.
It's G05. All right. Now we're going to switch up our greens just by swapping out one color. We're going to change the look of it just by switching out one color to do our holly.
Okay.
We're going to drop the G28
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to pick up a YG03.
Okay.
Now, you might be saying to yourself, Kelly, those look really, really far apart. They are. It's okay. They'll still work together. Like sometimes you just got to experiment with what you got. That's why I always say you don't need all the markers. You don't. When you're mixing color families, in this case, they are both greens, but one is a yellow green and one is a true green. You want to look at this last number. A 3 is close to a 5. They'll blend together. It'll be all right. So now we're going to go in. I'm going to turn this paper around so I can flick away from myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to put my G17. So right away, I know looking at this that I'm going to have shadows around my little berry because it's sitting on top. So I'm going to go in and add those. Then I can see my little lines here. I'm going to follow my lines. Same thing here. I know my berry is on top. I'm going to follow my little lines here. And then I will go back in. This is the base. It's tucked behind. I will have just a little bit more shading there. Could you use a yellow to lighten up the leaves if you wanted? Absolutely, Mary. If you want to go over a G05 with a yellow, like to make it a bit more yellow, I would recommend probably something that's right around the same. I would try a Y08. If that doesn't lift it enough, you could do a Y02, but that's really going to bleach out your color, just FYI. All right, so now we're going to go in with this G05. We're going to go right over that G, what do we use? A G17. We're going to go right over top of it. And we're going to start to extend this out. We're going to do these little triangles so that we can bring that triangle down to meet the G17. Because remember, when we're doing this, what you're going to see the most of is your midtone. For us, in this one, it's a G05. Okay. Little triangles. Little triangles. And that's going to leave us with some little white triangles that is going to be our highlight. I'm just going to fill in that little, there's like this little smidge of a triangle on the other side of the berry. I just want it to match. And then the last color is going to be a YG03. And we're going to do just like we did with this flower up here. Instead of going over everything, we're going to flick it in, overlapping that G05. And that is going to blend them and bring in our highlight. sometimes when you're going over your darkest color, your lighter colors can really bleach them out and lose your dimension, which is what has happened here. Like I can see my lines are slightly darker, but not dark enough that I'm happy with them. Like we have a little bit of definition, but not as much as I would like.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go back in with the G17, super light hand. Let me put this up there. And then I'm just going to follow those same little lines that are already there. You can still see them. We're just going to make them more predominant. And this is going to help with that dimension issue. Just follow those little lines. And then our holly is done. How you doing?
I'm doing the same as you. I'm kind of where a lot of it kind of bled out.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of going back in and adding just a hair. Trying to get a little bit of that back.
I can't believe that. Well, the only thing we have left to color is the candles and then the flower pot. Oh, we do. Well, we need to do some dye. We're going to dye cut the flower pot and the shelf, and we'll have to color those. But then, I think we're moving along good. What do you think?
I think we're doing good.
Okay, good. Right. I'm going to swap over here. You can do your candles any color that you would like. I chose to do mine white. That's why I'm coloring them with the grays. But literally any color that will make your heart happy, you can color them. When you're coloring something white, all you are doing is putting in the shadows. That's it. Okay? So we are going to use a C1, a C3, and a C5. You can use toner grays, neutral grays. You just want to have two different grays. I am using the cool and the warm so that my candles are not the same color as my flower pot. But you can use either or, whatever works for you. All right. Again, we're going to go in with our darkest color, and we are going to be very light-handed because we want our candles to look white. We're only adding in the shadows.
Okay.
So we're going to start over here. This wax is dripping down. Yep. So again, one object laying on top of another. This is going to have just a little bit of shadow. We're not being super heavy-handed. Okay, this is the top portion of the candle. So this is where the wax is coming down. We're going to have some shading in the back here. This is where your candle has burned down. You have that little, melty puddle. We're going to have a little bit of shading behind that.
Oh, behind it.
And then right here, you can see this little guy right here. We're going to add just a little bit of shading in there. And then we're kind of going to carry that across.
Okay.
We're going to add just a little bit down here in the bottom left-hand corner. Just a little kind of rounded line. And this is just going to help give it some shape.
Okay.
That's its whole sole purpose is just to give it a little bit of shape. We're going to do the same thing over here. The melted wax is coming down. We're going to add just a little bit of shading. We're going to go behind this line. And then right here where we have these little lines, we're going to just carry those over. On this side, we're going to do our rounded line on this outside. And again, this is just to help give it a little bit of shape. Now this candle is behind, which means we're going to have a little bit more shading down here. We're going to flick upward. Because if it had two candles in front of it, it would have quite a bit of shadow, right? But we're not going to take it all the way up because we want it to be white. So we're just going to add it where we need it. Again, where the wax comes down. Up here, we're going to go behind. And then again, on the inset. Okay. I apologize for not putting the C5 up here. I forgot. It is gray. I'm using cool grays, Mary. All right. So now we're going on to the C3. And again, we're going to go over the C5. But this time, we're not going to extend it too much because we want it to be white. We are going to go ahead and connect this over here where our rounded line is. And bring it over here, not completely touching, but again, that's just to give it some shape. We're going to go over the C5 in the back. We're not extending. We're just covering it up so that it blends. I'm also going to now take my C3 and go in front of these lines, so underneath them, these little edge lines. What happened?
Puddle, puddle.
Oh no.
Puddle. See, it happens to everybody, friends. Okay. I got to take and that's okay because I can fix it later on.
All right. Take your cap off the other end.
I did. We're good to go.
Okay. That's the worst. And it happens to me too. It is the worst.
I know. Okay. Can you tell me about going in front of those little lines again?
Yeah. So these ones that show the difference between the side of the candle and the top of it.
Yep.
We're just going to add a little bit of shading right underneath them.
Okay. There we go.
We're going to blend this up. Oh, cap down, cap down. And then underneath there. All right.
Okay.
And now onto the C1. And again, we're not going to extend it too far out. We're really just going to use this to blend. So we're going to go right over the ones that we have already put down, blend those out. Now this one will usually it will make all of your little lines touch by the time you're, done blending them out, but that's okay. And I know that it looks gray, but once we get it in the little scene with all the other colors around it, it will look white. Hang tight. And then again, going over this, I do go over all of them. I go over the C5 and the C3 when I'm blending this out, this large area. Okay. And then those are done. They look so dark on my screen. They're not that dark in real life. Mary, how do you prevent puddling? You basically, if your marker is overfilled, you have to pop the tops off of both of them, and it keeps it from pooling out one end. I don't know why it works. Back in the day, they used to say that it equalized the pressure. But then somebody came out and was like, well, the barrel isn't pressurized, so that's not really what it's doing. I don't know what the science is because my major was criminal justice. I can only tell you that if you pop the tops off both ends, it usually will keep it from blobbing.
Yeah, I'm trying to clean up my mess, Mary, where my wax is too melty.
Prudence, do you have a basic set of colors to invest in if you can't buy them all? Prudence, I have on my website, I have a Copic coloring, like the combinations that I use most often. But I would never recommend that you buy a set because the sets are not designed to be used together. The sets are designed to give you as many colors as possible, but that's not really the benefit of Copics. The only exception to that is the sets that are like 3-color blends, they're family blends. Those ones are great. Those colors are designed to work together. All right. So now we're gonna do our little die cutting so that we can finish up the rest of our coloring. And we are going to, I love these little floral vases. I chose the ones that I liked, the one that I thought fit the best, but certainly you could use whichever one makes your heart happy. So we have those. Ingrid, gravity. Could be. It could be gravity, girl. I don't know. Don't know. All right, I'm going to use this little, but I could cut it out of here. This little guy, we're going to cut out of white. And then really any of these little floral vases will work. You just got to make sure that it fits on your size of card, whatever size you're making. And then we're going to, out of these little bud vases, which are adorable. I have one of these little baskets in my bathroom that looks almost just like this. This we're cutting out of black. This we're cutting out of white. And then while we're at it, we're going to die cut out all of our other pieces parts. We're just going to get them all. Just going to get them all at one time. If I can fit them. Alrighty. Do you guys like decorate like this for holidays?
Yes.
I did before I had my last baby. I probably go back to it once she gets a little bit older, but it seems super pointless at this age for me to try to put up too many things.
I remember those days where everything on the tree was like waist high and above, so little hands can't grab it. Yep.
Correct. My husband has been trying to teach her, look with your eyes, look with your eyes, not with your hands. And I'm like, she's 2. She's going to hands all of it.
Absolutely.
All right. So let me find some tape here on my desk.
You know what we did, Kel, when our little Sam was little, like Caitlin, is I hung like the little jingle bells on the bottom of the tree with like ribbon. And then he was able to grab and thinking that he was, big stuff because he could grab the little jingle bells, but then he wasn't tearing up like our family ornaments and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
So
That
yeah,
was smart.
we covered the bottom of the tree in little jingle bells so he could feel like he was playing.
I just have all the plastic ones that don't matter on the
Yes.
bottom, and we put all our family ornaments up
Yep.
top.
That's part of the fun of it.
Yeah, she's very independent.
Well, I
Very,
wonder where she
very.
gets that from.
She's so stubborn, that little baby. I think it's her father.
Oh, I don't know.
Hey, you're supposed to be my friend.
Yeah, I'm your friend. We know how that goes.
No wonder my husband likes you so well. You over here like, girl, maybe it's you.
I've met you both. You're both very strong-willed, independent people. So she got a double dose there.
She sure did. She sure did. All right. I'm gonna need another piece. Getting all my.
Okay, I'm gonna be loud for a second.
Brilliant. That is brilliant. What are you, die cutting?
Yes. It's gonna be loud for just a second, probably. This is fun. I feel like I'm like crafting with a girlfriend. We need to do this more often.
Yeah. It is a very good time. All right. I'm gonna run these bad boys through.
Well, and when you do this for your job, it's not a lot of times that you get to just like FaceTime with a friend and craft with a friend or something like this. So this is fun.
I do this as often as I possibly can. Like, because, as I'm sure you know, like when you do this for a living, you work from home.
Yeah.
So you don't see no people, girl.
No.
You don't see no people. If you want to see people, you got to call somebody or you got to go out of your house.
That's right.
And I don't have a whole lot of interest in going out of my house. So
especially not this time of year. It's crazy.
Hey, sister. Not in this weather, no ma'am.
Oh, is the weather, has it gotten snowy there in Ohio?
So last week it was very snowy and cold.
Uh-huh.
But this week, I don't know, Mother Nature's drunk or something. It's yesterday it was 60 degrees.
Oh, of course. So it's like you live in the South like me.
Yeah, it's a little crazy. All right, so with all my pieces parts, I'm gonna chop out these little guys. Get them, get them, get them, get them. How cute is that little shelf? All right. I was telling Kelly that, of course, I chipped 3 nails before we did this. So this morning I had to spend some time cutting my or taking off my nail polish and repainting just 3 sad little fingernails.
Of course.
You bring this back out so I can see what I'm doing here. Okay. So I'm going to set these aside. We do need to color these. I'm going to bring back in our stack so that we can see what we're doing. Somebody said, where is the best prices for refills? Blick Arts, hands down. All right, we are moving on to the warm grays. Let me know when you're in a good spot, Kel.
Go ahead. I need to recut my little. Okay, so this is a whole story, but Emily, my daughter Emily, and I have been like creating little holiday felt ornaments, and so my good die plates are downstairs where we've been just crafty. And so I'm trying to, these die plates, I pulled the old ones out and, you know, they're just not cutting it. So go ahead.
Okay. All right. So we're going with the, let me get them in here. W1, W3, W5. And we're going to do our pot with this. We're going to start with our W5. And you can see when you're looking at, like, obviously it's just blank, but like you can see where the lip should be. So we're going to go in and we're going to just follow along with this little indent in the die. And I do better vertically versus horizontally and getting a straight line, but you do whatever works for you. It doesn't have to be perfect. So we're going to add some little shadings there. And then again, remember how with the candles, we kind of did the rounded line on the left and right hand side. We're going to add just a little bit of round on the bottom corners here. And then we're going to move on to the W3. Now we're going to add a little bit of shading from the left and the right on the top portion. And then we're going to go right over this line. And we're going to add a little bit of shading, flicking in from each side. We'll go right along the bottom with that. And basically what this is going to create is a center highlight that will make our flower pot look more round. Oh, Nancy, how to tell if they'll blend together from different color families is you want to look at the last color. The last colors should be relatively close together. Like a 2 will blend with a 3 or a 4. 3 will blend with a 5 or a 6. Like that, that's how you blend the color families. So this is a W1. And we're going to just bring that in from the edges. Again, all of this is still staying white, going over this line here. And we are flicking in from the outside edge, covering up our last color on both sides. Now, it's always darker when you first do it because the alcohol hasn't evaporated yet. But once it dries back, you should have a white-ish pot. And then this little pot is done. See how fast that was? How you doing, Cal? Where you at?
I am grabbing my W1 to finish it.
You're doing a good job catching up then. All right. So for the shelf portion, we have an E 55, 57, and 59. And we're, again, going to do the same thing to create that center highlight. So we're going to start with our darkest color. We're going to flick that in from the edges. This is great. This little shelf is great because it already adds the little wood grain to there. we're just going to do a small line along the bottom here because it would be sitting on the ground or whatever we're going to create for it. So that will have a little bit of shading there. And then again, a little bit of shading on the right-hand side. We're going to leave this top part light. We're going to go in with the 57 right over top of the 59. Again, we don't want to create a wall of color. We want to vary our strokes. We're going to go right over this little line here, extend it upward a little bit, and get this side as well. I feel like I'm not getting in there. There we go. I was going to say that looked a little white in there. We don't want to leave no white. And then the last is the E55. There seems like there's 7 different styles of Copic. Connie, there's Chow, which is the same as a sketch, except it holds less ink. There's a wide, which is a little bit different. The nib is different. It's a very wide chisel nib. For your 55, you're just going to go in and fill in whatever left over, and you can blend right over those other colors. So there's really not too many options. The difference between the Chow and the sketch marker is just the amount of ink that they hold and how often you'll have to refill them. Okay. Prudence, it's actually my fault. Simon Says Stamp does sell them. That link doesn't work because they updated their website and I didn't update my links. But to be honest, if you're open to shopping at Blick Arts, you're not going to find them anywhere cheaper. If you want the sets, Honeybee does sell the sets. But most of your like Joann's, Michael's, Simon Says Stamp, like they're selling them for $8 a marker and you don't have to pay that. You can get them for $5.50, $5.25 over at Blick Arts. I don't understand why anybody buys them anywhere else. That's just me. I don't buy them anywhere else. Unless because Honeybee is fantastic and they do sometimes offer like the 20% off site wide, then I'll go buy them there. All right. So now we have everything colored. Before we start building, we need to do our sentiment. Now, I chose the sentiment that is from the Holiday Blooms set. I liked a smaller one that would tuck in, but really you could use any of the ones that you like for whatever look you're going for. Honeybee does sentiments better than just about anybody else on the market. And these have some really great ones. You don't even have to do this as a Christmas card if you don't want to. They have a thank you. They have a hello friend. Like the thinking of you, a missing you, just really, really great sentiments. But we are going, well, we did tidings of great joy here. What do we, no, I don't like that one with this. Season's greetings. Nope, I think we're going to stick with the one that I picked originally, at least for this card. Okay. For this, we're going to do a little bit of heat embossing. I got to bring in my little Misty here. I'm going to grab that same black cardstock that I die cut out of because I am very frugal.
Me too.
And I am not wasting my black cardstock. I'm going to use every little bit of it. Every little bit of it. Stick this down here. I'm going to be using the coordinating die to cut it out, so I just want to make sure that I leave enough room for the die to fit in there nicely. I am going to treat with my anti-static tool. For me, that is the Cottontail anti-static tool. This thing is so good. Honeybee sells it in their store. because they're fantastic and they support other companies. And then I am going to stamp this in our Be Creative Metallic Gold. They also have a metallic silver, which is awesome, but I'm a gold girl. So I'm going to ink this up. And I like to stamp mine lightly, just very lightly. And then I will stamp it a second time. I'd rather stamp it twice with really light pressure to make sure I'm going to get a good impression than once and mash it down and then find that it's very difficult to read my sentiment.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I am doing a poor job of inking up my Y, so I'm gonna stamp it a third time too. Better. There we go. Alrighty. And then I am going to heat set this in some gold embossing powder as soon as I find my little cheat sheet. There it is. You know, that I need to.
Oh, Copic's down.
I don't care how long I've been crafting. Melting metallic embossing powder will always be magical.
Yes. Agree.
All right. So now, I don't know if you guys know this. I'm going to show it to you just in case you don't know. This is my dies for my holiday blooms, and this is my stamp set. Sometimes when you're trying to find the ones that match, it can be challenging to find the ones that match. So if you take your stamp set and you flip it over on top of your dies, you can see how they match up. Like, see, this is the season greetings one.
Yeah,
So
brilliant.
it's so easy. You just move it around until you find the one that lines up. Like, it's great. I'm pretty sure mine actually did not get put back in its correct place because this is the only one that isn't in its correct place. And if I had to guess, I would probably, nope, no, this is the wishing you, is it wishing you love on Christmas? That one might be that one. No, wishing you seasons of joy. So that does mean that my tidings is still in here and I should be able to find it if I put this back down in its correct place. So I gotta find it though, because I already pulled the stamp out. Is it this one? Nope. Is it this one? Nope. Does it go this way? Yep. See how it fits in perfectly? And now I know.
So smart. I'm going to have to start using that. Usually I just like puzzle piece all of them together.
I just get tight because I don't want to break a nail, like pulling them on and off the little strippies. So all right. I'm just going to take this guy down and cut him out. And then we're going to start building. Who's excited? Who's excited?
I'm excited.
I'll pop this bad boy out. And then sometimes with that embossing powder, it can leave, like the anti-static tool, I mean, it can leave just a little bit of like residue that kind of dulls dark cardstock. So normally I do this on my pants, but I will show you on scene here. I just on scene on screen, and I just rub it on there and then it's fine and it goes back to fruit black. So sometimes
Yes.
you just got to rub it away. All right, so now we need our little card base. Put that aside. So I always do mine in portrait. You guys can do whatever makes your heart happy. I have a full sheet. I'm going to trim it vertically at 4¼ and then I am going to flip it so that my cut edge is on the inside. I'm going to line it up at 5½ I am going to take my, where is it? My honeybee bone folder, and I'm just going to use this little well here to create my score line. And then I'm going to match my edges up when I fold it over before I press it down. I'm just going to at first lightly press it with my finger, and then I'll go back in with my bone folder. I like to start in the middle and push out to one edge and then come back to the other. And then this is our little card base.
Mm-hmm.
You can stamp whatever you like in there. It will fit in an A2 size envelope. All right. So now, let me move my bone folder here. We have this little gold splatter in the background. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Now, you can use whatever gold you like. Like some people have ink, some people have metallic watercolors. I use Perfect Pearls because it's inexpensive and it lasts, 500 years. I'll pass this on to my children one day, I swear to you. So I like to take a little bit. I just pick it up with the end of my paintbrush and dump it in there. Put my lid back on, and then I will add a little bit of water to it. The more water you add to your Perfect Pearls, the more transparent they'll be. The less water or more pigment powder you have, the more opaque it'll be. So whatever works for you. Just going to mix this up. This is a number 2 round brush. I like a smaller brush, but again, whatever makes you happy. So I know from my previous card, looking at this, that the majority of my elements are on the right-hand side. So I'm going to do my spatter at a diagonal here to fill up some of this empty area. You can do as much or as little as you like. You can make your droplets as big or as small. I like a lot. And then I'm just going to rinse that off. Several people have asked me where I got this little flower palette. It came in a set that I actually bought for my son. It's like a kid set that it came with. So you can't buy it. I don't know where to tell you to buy it. I'm sorry. I know it's adorable and it works really well for this, but I don't know where to tell you to get it.
I just used my little honeybee flexible.
Oh yeah, I have one of those.
That worked really well. And I'll show really fast. So I use this little. We made that our little flexible embellishment tray to do my splatters, and it cleaned up really well. So that's an option because it's just the really nice like silicone. So it just wiped out really nicely. Okay.
All right. So here, I need to make sure I'm dry. My little glass mat. I should say, by the way, if you're looking for glass mats, there will be a sale coming up on those as well if you're interested. Okay. So now we're gonna start just kind of building our scene. I like to do it kind of off the card first, just so I can kind of see what I'm working with.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got my little flower in my pot,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how high or how low you want it to be. Now I have it right next to my card so I can see if I've got, you know, my flower's too tall here.
Right.
So that way I can kind of just look at it and eyeball it. I want it to be a good size up. Also, you know, we need to make sure we have enough room for our little shelf at the bottom.
Right.
So we got that. And then we're decorating our little pot with the holly
Cute.
and putting our little candles in. Now, see how these candles are drawn where there's this gap? What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to tuck my candles in underneath the shelf
Yeah.
because
Cute.
it's going to be covered by this anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want the gap and nobody will know that it's kind of tucked underneath.
Right.
And then this will sit on top so it looks like everything is contained in our
Mm.
little basket.
So cute.
If you would rather decorate the shelf with the holly instead of the pot, you can leave it outside here. And then we're going to have our little bow. The bow is optional. I will show you how to blend the bow into your scene if you want to, but that is probably it's a little complicated. You know what I'm saying. All right, so now that we have a good idea of the sizing of things, we're going to start putting it onto our card base. So for that, I am going to be using my glue press. The glue press, when you buy it, comes with a secondary like glue, an empty glue bottle that you can use. And mine's going to give me a hard time now. Even though I made sure, or I thought I made sure to put it, well, we might be going old school honeybee glue, not in the glue press because I didn't line it up and put it on the silicone, guys. That's the trick to getting it not to clog. But if you don't put it on the silicone, it will clog because that's how it works. All right. Well, we'll come back to this. I'm just going to go old school honeybee glue, which also works great. So there's no reason not to use it.
That's what I'm using in my honeybee. I have not tried the glue press, and they're hard to get your hands on those now.
Yes, ma'am, they are. Yes, ma'am, they are. I try to pay attention because I know a lot of people are very interested in them.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see that they're back in stock, I try to share it over on my YouTube community page.
Yes.
All right. So I want this to be tall. So I'm going to adhere this down as far over to the right as I can get it without it hanging off my card, and up pretty high. I only have probably about 1/4 of an inch from the top. So then the next part that needs to go on is my pot. Where's my tweezers? See, we've gone all this way, but I need the tweezers for assembly.
I love my tweezers.
Here they are. Found them.
There we go.
Okay. So then we're going to put our little pot down. Oh, Lori, we're not done yet. Lori, we're not done yet. She's getting ahead. All right. So now I'm going to lay this part here for the placement of my candles. Because remember, I got to put my candles underneath, but I need to know how high my shelf comes up.
Okay.
So I'm just going to lay them there as a placeholder and add the glue to my candles. And then I will be able to slide them behind. And make sure you're sliding them in far enough because this is a little basket. You want to make sure all of your elements are within the basket. They shouldn't be, you know, hanging out. Like you don't want your candles hanging out of your basket. It wouldn't make any sense. Okay.
Cute.
So now figure out where we want our little basket to go. This. I want mine up just a smidge higher. So my shelf has just a little bit of room for the ground. And I think that'll do fine. And then I'm going to put my holly up here before I adhere my shelf down. Nice. I'm going to have to position it in a way so that it does not hang off of my card to make sure. There we go. And now we can do our basket. Make sure I get my items centered. Okay. Boop, boop. For this little shelf, I get the edges, and then basically I do the little dots where the things connect. I do not take the time to do every single. To me, it just doesn't seem necessary. It's not going to go anywhere. And then I will line this up on top of my shelf. Cute, cute, cute.
Very cute.
Oh, Linda, I didn't use them for the candles, but I did use them for the lantern. I wish I knew where that card was. It was so cute. It did the little light up.
It was adorable.
Yeah, do I know where that is? There's the post box. I don't know what I did with it. It's over here. I just sorted all my cards today because they were falling all over the place. But I'm not 100% sure where my little lantern went. But anyway, there's a video that shows how to light up your lantern with pear blossom press. So here is where our little ribbon will live. But before I put on, no, I guess I can do it now. I'll do the little ribbon now. If you are not feeling the little ribbon, or you are not feeling blending your die cuts into your scene, just don't do it. It's fine. It's still a cue card. I'm just going to show you how I typically will do it. I want to find the center of this. Put my little ribbon down. You know, almost like you're giving like a little, like if somebody gave you a little Christmas gift basket.
Mm-hmm.
And I will put my sentiment. I'm just going to snug it in right in here. There's this nice open area to just snug it in. I'm going to make sure it's straight. There we go.
Shelly, I'll show you my card when we're done. I can't believe I told Lisa before you started, I was like, yeah, I'm going to try to do the coloring and stuff, but I probably won't finish the whole card. Well, you guys, I've done it. Now, my Copic marker skills, we need some work on that, but I mean, I'm pretty proud of how it's turned out.
I'm proud of you for doing it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So somebody, I think it was Lori, made the comment like that I don't like the white outline. Mm-hmm. True story. I don't love the white outline. So what I like to do is I will go back in here, for example, with the holly, it's pressed up against this leaf.
Yeah.
So I typically will go in with the matching color and I will blend that. You do not have to do this. The white die cut outlines do not bother everybody, but I like when my scene looks like a scene.
Yeah.
So that is why I choose to do that. Same thing over here with this little flame. I'll get that little green.
And you're not going around every little bit. You're just going where it touches.
Correct. Where it's sitting on the green.
That's so smart.
That's why, like when Amanda said, I'm surprised she didn't color the edges. Like when you're putting them together in a scene, you can't color the edges until you have it put together because you don't know what the edges are.
Yes.
So
Okay.
for like this one is sitting on our little pot, which is the W3. So I will just go in. I can follow this line right across. I know right here, all of this down here. We'll blend that in. Same thing on this side. But a lot of this is white, so you don't really have to do too much to blend it in. The one that is challenging is the bow. So you can leave it white, which I'm honestly, I'm after doing it the first time, like I'm going to bring in the other, like, so this is our card. After doing it this time, I'm almost hesitant to do it to this one because those lines can make it a little bit muddy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So let's see how it goes. We're going to add this little shadow underneath. For that, I chose to use my warm grays. Anytime you have like a little seam card, you want to ground your images.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes a world of difference. So I'm going to go in. This is a W5.
Okay.
I'm just going to go up just a little bit and I'm going to go around the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to color right over this little white edge on my die cut. And again, just a little bit up high. Then for the W3, I'm going to go right over top of that. I'm going to kind of flick it out a little bit. It really does make just such a difference. And then the W3, again, going over everything else, kind of flicking that color out into the white. It just gives it somewhere to live.
Right.
So, and then the same thing for the bow on the brown. Like for the most part, it's going to be this E55, but there is just a little bit of E57 showing on the bottom. So I'm going to fill that in. And then I will take the E55 all the way up to the top. This is super easy to match because everything is Copic colored. So you just literally use the same colors you use to color whatever object it's laying on. The part where it gets muddy is the black lines. And so honestly, I think that I'm probably not going to do them. What do you think, Cal? Do you want to know how to do it?
Yeah, show us. You might as well.
All right. So this is where your fine liner comes in. Because you have to go in with your, is this the wrong one? This is the wrong one. Stand by. Sorry. Here it is. All right. You have to go in and follow those same lines.
Oh, just on the edges. Oh, look at that.
So then that way it appears as if the bow is in front
Yes. See, these are things that I would never think of.
But because they're straight lines,
Bleed through the card. The grounding, it may, yes, mine did a little bit, Chris. Mine bled through a little bit, and it's fine. You could always put like a little white, like a piece of white cardstock on the inside if it bothers you. Me, I just like send it like that.
Or the other option is you can just build the whole thing on a card front. That's what this is. It's not even a backer. Build it on a card front and then glue this to your card base. And you wouldn't see any of that. So if you like this look, you would then go in and you would follow those same lines.
All the way through.
All the way through, correct. But I do think it's easier to look at when they're not there. Even though I designed this one, I think it is easier to look at when those lines aren't there. Like, I think doing the top and the bottom is enough to give the illusion that it's in front.
Mm-hmm.
So then a couple of just last minute, you guys know if you watch my videos, I am all about the details. And so, girl, where did these go? I had them. Where are they? Oh, it's because I went to grab my Copic chart. So these, okay, if you don't own these, I'm just going to tell you, get them. Do it. I don't tell you to buy much because I'm frugal, but this pack is so good. This metallic mix pearl stickers. Let's look at how much I've already used. And they just came out, what, like a month ago, 2 months ago?
Right.
I've already used so many of them. They're so good, though. So we're going to use these to accent our little sentiment. I like to use my tweezers to pick them up because they have the stickies on the back. So I just pick them up with my tweezers and then place them down where I want them to go. I think I used a big one. I did. Used a big one up here. And then put this little guy down here. And then I like to work in odd numbers because your brain will try to pair even numbers. So we'll give us 5 there. Blends in really nicely with that spatter that we have going on in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to go in and, is that the empty one? I can't tell. I'm a user. We're going to use a clear glitter pen.
Oh,
add some glitters to our flowers.
We're doing all the things today.
Yes.
With all the glitter, all the sparkles.
Well, it's a Christmas card, Kelly. We have to.
I know. It's a rule.
Yes. So, and then I'm also going to get these little berries and my little flames.
Ooh.
As well as my bow. Do you, what do you use for your clear?
A Wink of Stella.
Yeah, I have that one and I have this one from Nuvo. They're both great.
Let's see here. That is opal. I don't want that one. Here we go.
And then the last thing is just a little bit of white gel pen. So I'm going to add a couple of dots here to our stamen and our flowers to help those stand out. I'm also going to add a little highlight to our berries, and I'm going to get the little dot in the center as well. I'm going to add a little bit to our flames. And then I'm also, this is going to be super helpful if you are a person who is a bit heavy-handed. So I'm also going to go in with my white gel pen and I'm going to get those candle edges where maybe I got a little heavy-handed. This is going to clean that up and give a really nice finished look. so that we have some true white in there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've colored over your wicks, you can also put them back in with your white gel pen. Going to do just a little bit on the bow as well. And then that's it. That's the whole thing.
Wow.
We made it. We did it.
We did it. I can't believe it.
We made it.
Okay, let's go. Let me go here. Hello. We did it. Okay. All right, you ready to see, Kel, how I did?
I am.
Okay, here we go. Now, I'm not finished with the fine line around the bow, but okay, let me move it over here.
Oh, I think you did so good. Very pretty.
Not too shabby. I got really, on the holly, I had a little bleeding, so I'm going to have to work on that. Like when I brought in that lightest, what was that? YG0. Yeah. And then it all went. And then, so you can't even tell where I had my candle boo-boo because we covered it up.
Wonderful.
So there we go, friends. Okay. Thank you. See, Kelly's a great teacher.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So let's see here. Let's take we'll give 2 minutes to Kelly because I know she's exhausted and she needs a drink and all that good stuff. So if anybody has any, she's out of coffee. If anybody has any last minute questions, and then we're going to post, if you have questions, you can leave them in the comments below too. And Kelly can go back and answer those. And then we'll also post a spot in our Facebook group where you can type out and ask any questions about that. And then we'll leave I know the Copics are already listed there. So you can go back there and pick that out for sure too. Okay, let's see if anybody has any little questions for Kelly here. Let's see here. Thank you for that. Lots of thank yous, Kelly. Yes, me too. I'm so excited. Let's see here. Thank you for having class. Oh, good. Okay, and this will be available to watch replay. You guys have the link now. So just save that link. It's not available to just everybody on YouTube. We've provided that for you guys that are our subscribers, and we love you guys. You guys are so supportive, and so that is available to you guys. So make sure you save that email that has the newsletter and the link and everything in it, and then of course it will stay in our Facebook group as well. Okay, such a fun class. Yes. Okay.
So there was one question about how to keep your white gel pens from drying out.
Mm-hmm.
So let me grab. All right, I want to show you. This one is the one that I used today. It's a 10. This one is an 8. Sometimes you'll see them as a medium, a small, a medium, or a fine, or a medium. Mm-hmm. The larger your nib, and a 10 is pretty large, the less likelihood that it will dry out. If you get the really fine line ones, and an 8 isn't as fine as it could be, but it is much finer than a 10, those ones are more likely to dry out if you're not using them every day. So how do you keep them from drying out? Use them as often as you can. If you're not going to use them that often, then buy a larger nib. That is my tip. Martha asked, can you color with the Copic classic markers? I don't own them, Martha. I own sketch markers. That's what I have, and a couple of Chow ones. I do some Olo I've used before, and some Altenew. That's what I have.
Okay, we've got some giveaway winners here that Lisa has helped us out with. So congratulations to Helene and Paige. If you'll email me and at Kelly, Kelley at honeybeestamps.com, I'm going to send you a gift card. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Thank you so much, Kelly, for taking time away from your family to spend with us today. It has been amazing. I wasn't sure I would get a whole card done, and so I'm so excited. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank
So
you.
proud of you. Good
Yes,
job.
thank you. Thank you all again for joining us, and we'll catch you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.